Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
An escalation in the war with Iran today as 2 U.S. military planes were shot down for the first time since the conflict began. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. One U.S. crew member was rescued from a downed fighter jet, but another remains missing. Iranian state media also reported a separate U.S. aircraft crashed in the Persian Gulf after being hit by Iranian defense forces. As Brian Abel reports, this comes as the White House issues new threats.
Behind enemy lines, 2 U.S. crew members in a fighter jet confirmed to have been shot down from the skies over Iran. Iranian state media releasing images of debris and an ejection seat believed to be from their F-15E. U.S. officials confirming the jet's downing and the launch of a search and rescue mission. Part of it, consistent with video seen here, posted to social media showing 2 helicopters refueling. One of the crew confirmed to be recovered alive, though their condition is unclear.
They will have beacons on them, the equivalent of beacons that allows for there to be communication between the rescue forces as well as the individual pilot and the other air crew member, the weapons systems officer. And those 2 individuals may be in totally separate locations.
Iranians offering rewards to any citizen who, quote, capture and hand over a pilot or pilots of the enemy alive. The F-15E jet flown, capable of anti-missile defense with flares and chaffs, are stationed at multiple bases in the region. Today's developments, a dramatic and sobering moment in the conflict after the Pentagon and the president, briefed on today's shoot-down, have touted air superiority for pilots for weeks.
They're not even being shot at because their equipment's been totally decimated. They have nothing to shoot.
Sources say intel shows Iran maintains 50% of its missile attack launchers and one-way drones. The president today issuing new threats to Iran, saying bridges next, then electric power plants. New regime leadership knows what has to be done. In Washington, Brian Abel, KPBS News.
Meanwhile, gas prices remain high amid the escalating conflict in the Middle East. Coming up, we take a look at how that extra expense is starting to impact rideshare drivers.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and coming up tonight, we're clear to partly cloudy as temperatures drop to the 50s. The winds begin to ease, but that summer-like heat returns. I'll show you when temperatures start to cool down. That's all coming up.
The Imperial County Board of Supervisors will vote next week on a controversial data center complex. KPBS reporter Corey Suzuki says the decision is a crucial one that's already faced a court challenge.
The vote on Tuesday will be on whether to combine several lots or parcels of land located next to the small city of Imperial. That's where a Southern California developer, Imperial Valley Computer Manufacturing, wants to build a $10 billion data center complex for artificial intelligence companies. The developer says the project would bring new revenue and some jobs to the county, but they're facing fierce opposition from a large group of county residents who worry about the potential environmental impacts of the facility.
We just purchased more land, so stop. You can have Jake make your little videos later.
Last week, residents protesting the project drowned out the company's CEO, Sebastian Rucci, at a county meeting.
Then this one here is the gas.
We'll take a recess from this meeting.
County officials say this upcoming lot merger decision is the only step where they have discretion on whether the project moves forward. The city of Imperial is against the project and tried on Thursday to convince a Superior Court judge to stop the upcoming vote from happening. The judge denied the city's request, but the supervisor's decision could still face an additional court challenge. In El Centro, Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
The plan to build thousands of homes and a new arena known as Midway Rising is the biggest development proposed in San Diego right now. For our weekly Why It Matters segment, Voice of San Diego's Will Huntsberry explains how state law could change to help it.
Builders have been trying to change the California Environmental Quality Act for years. CEQA, as it's called, forces builders to study the impact of their projects on the environment and also on traffic and noise and views. They have to make a plan to reduce those impacts, and then, if everything goes right, the local government approves their plan. But if someone thinks the plan isn't good enough, they can sue. And that happens a lot. CEQA lawsuits stop and delay hundreds of projects every year. Sometimes rival companies sue to stop projects that may hurt their business, or labor unions sue for a better deal for workers, or sometimes people just really don't like a project. So that's where we come back to Midway Rising. The plan to redevelop about 50 acres of city land with 4,200 apartments and a new sports arena in Midway, which is pretty much universally people's least favorite neighborhood. The project is supposed to bring new life to the area. And to get it done, city leaders and one state lawmaker have decided they want to exempt Midway Rising from CEQA. They've proposed a state law which will carve out a CEQA exemption for just this one project. The Midway project has almost seemed cursed. It takes one step forward, two steps back. San Diegans twice voted to waive the city's coastal height limit to get it done. Twice, CEQA lawsuits have overturned those votes. This proposed exemption is city leaders' latest attempt to get the project done. Some folks already had plans to sue on CEQA grounds again. They said Midway Rising's plans to reduce traffic congestion weren't good enough. But if this new law passes, no one will be able to sue, at least not on CEQA grounds. And that could prevent months or years of delay. For Voice of San Diego, I'm Will Huntsberry, and that's why it matters.
Voice of San Diego is one of our partners for the Public Matters Initiative. You can learn more at kpbs.org/Public Matters. More than 20 states, including California, have filed a lawsuit challenging the executive order President Trump issued this week federalizing vote-by-mail ballots. The lawsuit argues the president is overstepping his constitutional authority to impact the 2026 midterms. Trump's order would put federal checks on how states administer elections following unfounded claims of widespread voter fraud. Instead of state officials, federal departments would establish a list of eligible voters, and the U.S. Postal Service would send out ballots with a new barcode.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, a U.S. fighter jet is shot down over Iran for the first time in 5 weeks of war. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The Labor Department's latest jobs report delivered a pleasant surprise today as Cole Higgins reports the U.S. economy added many more jobs last month than expected.
The U.S. job market bouncing back in a big way. Employers added 178,000 jobs in March, according to the Labor Department. That number is well above expectations, almost triple the 60,000 new jobs economists had forecast.
This is an absolute blockbuster number. It's one of the best numbers that you've seen in a long time.
The unemployment rate also edged down to 4.3%. March marks a rebound after a surprising loss of 133,000 jobs in February. Some of that swing tied to workers returning after strikes. About 32,000 employees at Starbucks and Kaiser Permanente were back on the job last month. Healthcare, buoyed by rising demand from an aging population, added 76,000 roles. And more favorable weather likely helped lift March's employment gains as construction added 26,000 jobs and leisure and hospitality added 44,000. According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of regular gas is now $4.09. That's about 36% higher than before the war in Iran.
President Trump has said that this is a temporary thing, and the markets now obviously agree if you look at the jobs numbers today. And so our expectation is that this is going to last just a little bit longer, and then things will get back to normal much faster than you could expect.
I'm Cole Higgins reporting.
San Diego's unemployment rate is inching up. New data from the State Employment Development Department show unemployment at 4.7% for January. KPBS reporter John Carroll has the story behind that number from our newsroom.
I spoke with Hayden Dover. He's the labor market researcher for San Diego County, but he's employed by the Employment Development Department, the EDD. He says the slight rise for January was expected because seasonal jobs around the holidays tend to go away in the new year. I asked him why the numbers are just for January, more than 2 months ago. He says the answer is complicated, but basically they don't do analysis for February, and they've just now crunched the numbers for January and March. He also says the government shutdown and issues at the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics made the delay worse. All that said, Dover says San Diego County is in pretty good shape. He says we are fortunate to have a resilient economy here.
We had private education and health services, professional and business services, government, trade, transportation and utilities, and leisure and hospitality, all sporting over 200,000 jobs each. So that's just, those are some very strong pillars holding up our economy.
Dover says over the next 6 weeks, the EDD will be releasing updated reports on our unemployment numbers, so he expects the department will be all caught up by mid-May. In the newsroom, John Carroll, KPBS News.
The war has been driving gas prices up across the country, and here in San Diego, it's hitting rideshare drivers especially hard. Michael Latundre has been an Uber driver for 3 years. He told our media partner KGTV, with the price of gas nearing $6 a gallon, many drivers are working extra hours, but the money isn't adding up. He says the fees riders have to pay are also rising, which means many aren't leaving tips.
I was driving 10, 12 hours. Make $450, $500. I drive 10, 12 hours now. I'm lucky to make $225, $250. Some people have reduced down to 2-3 days, like only on weekends, and others have just stopped driving altogether because it's just not worth it anymore.
And he also says that he feels drivers aren't getting much support from rideshare companies. While he's not ready to give up just yet, he says it's getting harder every day. So let's take a look at our local gas prices for today. The average cost of a gallon of regular gas was unchanged from yesterday at $5.93. It follows the first back-to-back decrease since January 16th to the 17th. The average price dropped 0.2 cents Wednesday, ending a run of 40 increases in 41 days, totaling $1.34. The average is 2 cents more than a week ago and $1.04 more than a month ago. And a surge in gas prices fueled by the war in Iran is driving an increased interest in electric vehicles. But can the switch from gas to electric save you money? Maribel Gonzalez spoke to industry experts to find out.
We are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly.
President Donald Trump addressed the nation this week, saying the war in Iran could end soon. But in the meantime, gas prices continue to climb. The national average price exceeding $4 a gallon for the first time in nearly 4 years, according to AAA. The surge at the pump has some searching for alternatives.
A fifth of our website traffic was based on electrified vehicles, but that number is closer to 24, has been closer to 24 the past couple weeks.
Edmunds consumer insight analyst Joseph Yoon said online browsing isn't necessarily translating into EV sales.
There's multiple reasons for this. The biggest being that the tax credit, the $7,500 tax credit for EVs went away in September.
It's also due in part to the price tag. On average, electric vehicles cost about $6,500 more than the gas-powered cars, according to Cox Automotive. New car prices are already close to $50,000.
Not only are the cars expensive, the money is expensive. Interest rates have been hovering around 7% for a long time for even the most well-qualified buyers.
In the long term, electric cars can save drivers money as they end up paying less for fuel and maintenance. So should you switch to EV?
It's going to cost you so much more money than what you're going to be paying at the pumps. But if you're in the market for a car right now, I think it's worth considering an alternative powertrain.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
Well, here's a heads up to anyone with raw cheese in their fridge. County health officials are warning not to eat it. Raw cheddar cheese has been linked to an E. coli outbreak that made 9 people sick, including 2 people in San Diego. Well, yesterday, the company issued a voluntary recall on both its original and jalapeno-flavored raw milk cheddar cheese products. The county recommends throwing away any raw farm cheddar cheese products purchased after January 4th, 2026. You likely fall into one of two categories. You're either strictly following food expiration dates or using the dates listed on packaging as a loose guide. But with rising grocery costs and concerns over food waste, is it important to follow those dates down to a T? Mandy Gaither gets a registered dietitian to weigh in.
You can find them on granola bags, cereal boxes, and a whole host of products in your pantry. But how much weight do you put into food expiration dates?
It's ideal to know when that food is going to be best utilized by. Now, that's where it gets a little tricky. So that's just an estimate.
Registered dietitian Julia Zumpano with Cleveland Clinic says there are three kinds of food expiration dates. One is sell by, that tells the store how long they should display the item for sale. Then there's best by, or best if used by, which is when the product will have its best flavor and quality. Finally, we have used by, the last recommended day for the product to maintain peak quality.
Shelf-stable items are usually the ones that can exceed their dates. So looking at things like dried goods, like rice and pasta and cereal, canned fruits and vegetables, beans, things like that, usually are pretty safe.
Zumpano says to pay closer attention to expiration dates printed on perishable foods in the fridge, like meat and dairy. That's where bacteria and mold are more likely to grow. She says to always use your senses. If you see mold, sliminess, or the color is off, toss it. If it smells off, sour, or moldy, throw it out. And if something doesn't taste right, get rid of it.
If it is past that date, using those senses, or, if you feel better just tossing it, you can. But the goal here is to reduce food waste.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
NASA's Artemis II crew is sharing new images of Earth as they continue their flight to the moon. NASA released these images today from the first astronaut moonshot in more than 50 years. As of midday, the crew was 100,000 miles from Earth. As John Lawrence reports, they're officially heading to the moon after a final major engine firing last night.
My body's getting reacclimated. It's been a few years since I've been up here.
NASA is about to experience another giant leap for mankind.
We have just completed the translunar injection burn. Preliminary reports of a good burn.
In layman's terms, that means the process needed to boost the spaceship's speed fast enough to break free of the Earth's circular orbit was successful.
We all expected a really just dynamic ride, a lot of motion. We were prepared to potentially not being able to see telemetry, to maybe even not being able to, touch switches, and it was very smooth.
The 4 astronauts on this 10-day mission are paving the path for future lunar surface operations as they circumnavigate the Earth's only natural satellite.
Humanity has once again shown what we are capable of, and it's your hopes for the future that carry us now on this journey around the moon.
This historic trip marks the first time humans left Earth's orbit since 1972's Apollo 17 mission.
First and foremost, I would just like to say thank you. Your support and trust in us has enabled this.
The crew is expected to return to Earth on April 10th.
NASA is pushing to accelerate our return to the surface of the moon. Artemis II is a key first step to that. Shake down that rocket, make sure we understand how that spacecraft works.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
And the Artemis II moon mission includes an adorable little stowaway. A second grader from California won an international contest for designing a mission mascot that would serve as a zero-gravity indicator. Suji Nam introduces us to its creator.
This is the Apollo on the right side, and it's the past moon mission, and this is the Space Launch System.
It's an adorable plushie of a moon with an Earth cap.
I especially did the design and the ideas.
8-year-old Lucas Ye of Mountain View is the brains behind the masterpiece that won NASA's mascot competition for Artemis II.
This is the footprint made by Neil Armstrong on 1969 when he rode on Apollo 11.
He was inspired by this iconic capture of Earth from Apollo 8.
The Earth on top of the plushie's head was representing Earthrise.
Lucas's parents say his passion for space started when he was 3.5 years old.
He sometimes talks like that he's,
rocket scientist.
Basically, the third stage propels it to low Earth orbit. Right time, it basically uses Earth as a gravitational slingshot.
Lucas's mother, Clara Zhao, says when he's not drawing rockets and galaxies, he spends his free time reading.
He likes to read, that he enjoys sometimes that, his quiet time just...
Also, it takes approximately 8-10 minutes for a spacecraft to get to low Earth orbit.
When he opens up, he's like that.
Lucas is excited that a version of his plushie will be orbiting the moon on Artemis II.
Letting the crew know when they have reached microgravity.
Laura Bleacher, with NASA's Exploration Systems Development Mission Directorate, says the crew was moved by Lucas's creativity.
View that the Artemis II crew has indicated they're really excited to be able to see for themselves with their own eyes, representing, what they see as their role in representing all of humanity and, helping to kind of bring humanity along for the ride and having this, iconic experience now, right, for this new Artemis generation of explorers.
A surreal moment seeing his design in the hands of NASA astronauts.
It's time to fly. Cheers.
And so I asked him how he feels about Rise being thousands of miles away from Earth.
280,000 miles away, to be exact.
And how do you feel about that?
So surprised.
An opportunity for Lucas that is truly out of this world.
Wrapping up the week, heading into the weekend, and the weather's going to change for the better if you don't mind the warmth. I know we had plenty of that to wrap up March, and starting April, we did so on a cooler and wetter note at times. What we're tracking here in today's weather headlines is that the winds will begin to ease through tonight, but that summer-like warmth does return for the weekend, where temperatures will be ranging at times 10 to even 15 degrees above the historical average. And then we'll start to see a slow decrease in temperatures, especially along the coast first, and then for the remainder of the regions through next week. All right, tonight's temperature is comfortably cool down to the 40s and 50s. 41 in Mount Laguna, 51 in Borrego Springs. San Diego drops to 56 tonight, clear to partly cloudy, 47 in Oceanside, and Chula Vista down to 54. All right, we talked about the warmth returning, a significant warm-up. You can see the jet stream heading further north, even towards Canada, as their upper high strengthens. So that will bring us a warming trend Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday for many locations. All right, tomorrow, though, is quite gorgeous. Borrego Springs, a sunny 85. Mount Laguna, 56, and then we'll see upper 70s, Oceanside, San Diego, Chula Vista as we head into the day tomorrow. Looking at the coastal forecast here, as Saturday looks to be our warmest day, and then we'll welcome that slight cooling trend here as we head early into next week. All right, further inland, you will see your hottest day on Saturday before temperatures start to drop, low 80s on Sunday, and then we'll be back into the mid 70s for the first half of next week. Mountain forecast, your temperatures peak actually a little bit later. We'll be in the mid to upper 80s for the weekend, a slight cool down Monday and Tuesday, but then warmer Wednesday with a high of 61. For some desert locations, we'll be approaching 90 on Sunday. Temperatures will be there into the lower 90s, though, as we head into next week. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise. Well, check out this week's episode of the KPBS Arts and Culture podcast, The Finest. You'll hear the incredible story of a performer who risked his life to dance while ISIS fighters targeted him, how his act of defiance made him known worldwide, and the cost that came with fame. You can listen now at kpbs.org/thefinest or wherever you get your podcasts. Birch Aquarium has reached a milestone in octopus care. It has successfully hatched and settled red octopuses. KPBS environment reporter Tammy Murga says this is giving researchers a rare insight into their early development.
Here at Birch Aquarium at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, Maddie Tracewell gets a daily up-close look at some of the ocean's most fascinating and odd creatures. She's the senior aquarist at Birch. One of those creatures was a vibrant female red octopus.
Our plan was to put her on display so that the public could see her, but about like a month after we received her, she laid eggs.
Little did she know what came next would turn into one of the most peculiar moments of her time at Birch.
I was looking in the tank and I could see little tiny red eyes looking at me, and I was like, oh my God, they're fertilized.
Today, or 6 months later, more than a dozen of these eggs have grown into tiny red octopuses. The thumbnail-sized creatures are now settled. That means they're exploring the seafloor of their home at the aquarium. Before they settle, these babies spend weeks drifting in the ocean currents. Tracewell found a way to mimic this.
A lot of Aquarius training of building with PVC and plumbing, so I was able to build an upwelling system to raise them.
Birch officials believe this marks the first time the species has been hatched, raised, and settled in aquarium care. It's a big deal because scientists rarely get to see how the red octopus transitions from a free-swimming being to a settled voyager.
There's only about, I want to say six small-egged octopus species that have been raised in captivity, so there's just not a lot of knowledge about this stage of their life.
Red octopuses are native to California. They typically live for about 2 years. Tracewell says the hope is to display them eventually. Tammy Murga, KPBS News.
They are so cute. Well, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. And be sure to join us tonight for KPBS News This Week, where we revisit the most impactful and intriguing original reporting of the week. This Week airs every Friday at 8:30 right here on KPBS TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.